First of all, Gloob, you've done it again! They couldn't live with themselves. They couldn't let Disney have the world premiere. They couldn't do it. They went ahead and pipped him at the post once they were sure it would be too late for Disney to change it up. Gloob has gone full Gloob and released the episode Illustrhater ahead of schedule. And so we all settled in to watch the Brazilian Portuguese dub. Now I tell you what, that is nostalgic. I'm so used to the English or French version, I'd forgotten how funny some of the voices are here. Specifically Adrian, whose voice is so deep compared to what his character model looks like. Best casting choice of all time. Before we dive into the episode itself, I will say I've been steering clear of all online discussion for the last little while. I know there are leaks out there, people have opinions and whatnot, so I'll just tell you that I thought this episode was great. No notes, just great. It really did feel like a step up from the last season in so many ways. I feel as if the jokes were funnier, the action was better, the dialogue was a step up from the usual fare. Just the actual story of the episode was more engaging to me. You might disagree, but I thought it was a bit of a banger. Oh, and the animation. I know many people were just not keen coming into it, but good God, it's crazy how much better it feels to watch the show with more advanced animation. The world, the character models, the fluidity of the movement. It's on another level. It truly does feel like a whole new era for the show, and I am very hyped. But yes, the episode, let's go! Okay, so we open the episode with a look at Lyla, who's in her spooky murder basement. From the get-go, we just have a completely different vibe on offer. Gabe was always a bit of a meme, wasn't he? He was a loser with a smooth brain who got cooked by teenagers at every opportunity while spouting cringy one-liners and swearing revenge in his butterfly room. He very much felt like a classic golden era comic book villain. Very cartoonish, buffoonish, and over the top. It fit the vibe of the show at the time, and he was an icon for a reason. Here though, we have Lyla, who's just completely different. She comes across as one of those gritty and psychotic villains you might see Batman come up against in the modern era. She seems to have hundreds and hundreds of books filled with what I assume are her evil plans and manifestos, dedicating her whole life to this new pursuit, and for some more horror, she has poor little Nuru permanently frozen. Woof! She was always this hateable figure, but I feel like the writing's seemingly taking a step to make her seem frightening and truly evil. Then it's over to what I assume is Marinette's bedroom for our first look at Alia and Marinette, who are looking rather disheveled after spending what seems to have been the entire night up talking about what they do and don't know about Hawkmoth. Considering how little they discuss about what they know about the previous Hawkmoth and the current Hawkmoth, and yet they both look exhausted, I'm not impressed with their work ethic. Did it take them all night to make those 3 drawings? Come on, girls. Okay, so we learned that Hawkmoth akumatized about 212 people, with 99.8% of them being in Paris. So is this overall akumatizations or the number of individual people? Does Mr. Pigeon count for the 70-something times he got akumatized? Or does he only count as one person? Also, does this math even check out to begin with? There were akumatizations in Shanghai, 2 of them, and then 1 in New York, so 3 total. 2 if you don't count the prodigious guardian as a person. Yet 99.8% of 212 is 211.5. You can't have half a person, and so being generous will bump it down to 211. Still leaves them 1 to 2 akumatizations off the actual number though. Just saying. Anyway, Marinette's having a meltdown as they know nothing about this new Hawkmoth other than they're very intelligent essentially. Although Marinette claims that she doesn't know what they want, but in the London special, they literally stole the Miraculouses and made a wish. Marinette should know that, right? Oh well. Alia tries to help her by reminding her she has a whole team of heroes to help her out, only for her to keep melting down about this too, because it's all too much and she thinks she's made a mistake by handing out the Miraculouses, etc, etc, etc. Look at this girl and tell me it was a good idea to give her this much responsibility. Foo! Why are you the way you are? This poor kid never had a chance. Oh, thank you for saving me from death and giving me baked goods, young lady. Now just let me ruin your life. Alia, of course, being Marinette's personal therapist at this stage of the game, calms her down, and it's all good. At least, Marinette's calm. Until the sun starts to rise and they both realise that the boys are going to be there soon to go to the movies. I have to ask this, what time would they realistically be turning up anyway? I took a quick look at cinemas in Paris just now, and the earliest sessions I could find at best are like 10 a.m. I'd guess at this point they're early in the school year in this scene, maybe September, so sunrise would be around 7:30 a.m. or so, right? That's just from Google. Surely they're not going to be turning up anytime soon. Either way, this is one of those instances where you just have to flake out. No chance would I be going to the cinema after being up all night. I sometimes find myself turning into a budgie who falls asleep as soon as darkness descends in the cinema, even on a proper night's sleep. Sometimes I have to hold my cold can of Coke onto my skin to shock myself awake. I'd have no chance here, even as a teenager. I'd be pulling all-nighters in those days and crash around 9 AM and wake up at dinner wondering why I'm wasting my life like this. Moving on though, Alia tries to get out of going to the movies, but Marinette begs her to reconsider and go with her and Adrian because she needs to learn from her example with Nino. Honestly, this is some relatable stuff. I know some people are likely to be shaking their head thinking, oh, Marinette should be past this, but this is the first time the relationship doesn't have Gabe's disapproval hanging over it. And so it does make sense for it to suddenly feel awkward. That is life as a teenager. You ever gone to see a movie and then you see two young teens on a very obvious first date? It looks awkward as hell, because it is awkward as hell. I feel like Marinette is actually right to want more people around while she learns to be in a couple. Also, the banter between Alia and Marinette, on point here. The script is just sharper overall. We then get to the new intro theme, which is the same, but the intro video is obviously different. We get a look at some of the new designs. Some look Chadley, like the unexpected Max glow-up, what the hell? But some, not so much, like Nathaniel, or Sabrina, what the heck? Also, I love that her new secret in the intro is about Gabe, so clearly that is going to be a big plot point coming through in this second saga of the show. The fact that it's in the intro, though, suggests it's not going to be relevant anytime soon, just like the identity reveals. So we'll have to wait and see. Also, the title screen with all the heroes suited up and posing, hell yes! When we return, we're treated to some delicious cringe to get us started when the double date begins. Whilst Alia and Nino are in sync and honestly rather cute, Marinette fumbles again and again, sticking her fingers up Adrian's nose when they first meet, bonking heads on the tram, and just generally being incapable of speaking to him properly at all. Luckily, Alia's there to save the day with some top-tier chemistry with Marinette, helping her loosen up with some humour. Honestly, that's something I've noticed in this episode. They're showing off the friendship far more. They banter, they make jokes, they act silly. I like it, because it really showcases what a deep relationship they actually have, but also goes a long way in fleshing out their characterization and making them feel more than just characters. It adds to the realism of things, which is always good. Then we have our first major moment of the episode, and it's something I wasn't expecting. Apparently, the Paris City Council has not been adequately inspecting the health of their bridges, it seems, as a crack appears in the ground beneath the tram, stranding everybody inside. The driver, for some reason, doesn't open the doors to try to allow everybody to escape, and so it seems they're all going to take a dip into the river and potentially all die. For the first time in ages, we get to see hero work that doesn't actually revolve around an akumatized villain. We didn't really get to see much of this back in the first saga, so I like that they included this kind of stuff. I especially like that it wasn't involving Ladybug or Cat Noir, as Ladybug specified that the minor heroes are allowed to transform if it isn't an akumatized villain, and they can help themselves. 1, that is a clever plot point. 2, this is just a cool sequence. This whole sequence is awesome. Getting to see a combination of heroes doing hero work outside the confines of the lead pair. Yes! Also notable is the fact that Nino and Alia being heroes is now an open secret in at least this little friend group. I love that each of them knows something that the others don't, despite the secret now being unveiled. Alia and Marinette know that Marinette's actually Ladybug, Adrian is the only one that knows that he's actually Cat Noir, and Nino, well, I guess Nino knows nothing after all. Anyway, Nino and Alia transform and save a lot of people from a potentially awful death. Luckily for these people, they all decide to go to the movies and catch this specific tram that day. Surely people are getting fired over this, by the way. Moving on, Alia and Nino leave to go and de-transform, with Alia then having the sneaky idea to just straight up ghost Marinette and Adrian to try to force Marinette to be normal for once. Sometimes, tough love is the only option, and so she goes with it, with her and Nino deciding to do more digging into this new hawk moth. Considering she pulled an all-nighter, I would actually want to head home, to go to sleep. Okay, why not? Also, these two are very cute. I'm loving it. Of course, Marinette doesn't take this news well at all and continues to melt down on the way to the cinema and whilst waiting in the line. In a pretty funny moment, she notices all these different couples doing coupley things, although the guy running with the woman over his shoulders was wild. And she tries to copy all these things, but panics and backs out at the last second, only to settle on holding hands. In the time it took her to realise she wanted to do this though, and to get up the bravery, the line had moved on, with Adrian walking ahead, leaving Marinette holding hands with this random guy. I do have to say, and maybe this is just me or just recency bias, this episode is noticeably funnier than usual Miraculous episodes. Sometimes in Miraculous there were good jokes, but a lot of it was laughing at the situation or cringe, or just at the weirdness of the show. This though is genuinely funny. It's not a single moment either, like I said. There's been some good jokes and one-liners so far, and that continues into the next scene, where Adrian notices Kagami and Hiro get up, rushing to put out a fire, only for Marinette to completely disappear on him because she's finding it too awkward, and so she's using hero work to try to cope with that fact. So as Ryuko's about to use the water dragon power, Marinette turns up as Ladybug and uses a lucky charm to get a hose instead. Honestly, this is just a worse plan in general. Even with the dedicated team of firefighters and hoses, fires take ages to fight sometimes. I'm guessing the water dragon magic would have been far safer for everybody, and actually quicker. Might have saved some of the building. Plus, the mission would be over so much faster. Seriously, she's gone so long that Adrian has wasted his money on the movie tickets, and yet the film is now almost over. Bit of an epic fail for your first big solo date if you ask me. And honestly, part of it's on Adrian, I think. At a certain point, surely you'd think, oh shit, it's been over an hour. Poor guy. And he just stands there and takes it too. Guess that's what being raised by Gabe does to your ability to stand up for yourself, right? To try to salvage the date and prevent him asking too many questions about where she's gone, she drags him off to a cafe over the road, whilst Alia and Nino continue their investigations by interviewing some of the previous akumatized victims. See, this is where releasing the episodes out of order starts to hamper my enjoyment. You're missing context by having not seen these episodes. Back at the cafe, Marinette continues to fumble in the dark trying to figure out how to act romantic with Adrian, and tries to copy a romantic couple across from them. This leads to failure, first by ordering the most disgusting cookie combination I've ever heard of, pistachio and shrimp. And not just shrimp flavour, a straight up shrimp seems to be baked into this. How overcooked do you reckon that thing is? Honestly, foul. She then tries to rub his legs under the table with her own, which is a classic tactic, only to fail and kick him instead. Adrian then notices Miss Hound on top of a bus, and when he looks back, Marinette's gone. It's like Wile E. Coyote in Roadrunner, where they just leave the dust cloud behind them. I don't know about you, but if this happened to me, I might be getting the idea that this isn't working out. Imagine going on a date and your date mysteriously disappears for hours at a time. Would it not make you second guess whether they actually like you or not? Surely. Of course, Tiki tries to talk Marinette down from making this absolutely boneheaded decision, but she doesn't listen because this is Marinette we're talking about. Making reasonable and rational decisions under pressure and taking time to think things through? I think not! Also, before she tries to torpedo her relationship again, the little girl knocks on her door, asking for her to look at her drawing. She did it earlier too, and also bothered this other random, who is relevant later. And look, I get it. Cute little girl, some attempts at drawings. But I'm at the cafe to have a coffee and relax, not to smile and clap for the owner's daughter. Man, this makes me sound like such a Scrooge. But nah, not today, shoo, kid. Also, classic character designers. Quick, we need a design for this cute little girl who likes drawings. Oh, I'm stumped. Just make young Marinette. So Ladybug goes off, and I gotta ask, how fast is she? She managed to catch Ryuko with ease earlier. Here, Miss Hound had a huge head start, yet she still gets to the action just as Miss Hound's dealing with it. Super speed. She then sees Polymouse and follows her, which leads them past Adrian. Adrian at this moment's having a pretty shit time. The waiter brings him the bill and gives him some extreme pity looks. Hey little buddy, is your friend coming back? How humiliating is that? Adrian figures screw it, may as well have some fun, and so off he goes, leaving 20 euros behind to pay for their drinks and the cookies. Unfortunately for him, the wind blows his money away because he didn't put it in the clip. Whoops. Also, pretty sure he does not go back to square up the bill at the end of the episode, because, how would he know? So this cafe actually loses money. Lovely. Poor buggers. By the time that Cat Noir catches up with Ladybug, she's on the verge of a full-on nervous breakdown. She is tweaking and obsessing over doing hero work to avoid her date. Ironically, her boyfriend, the one she wishes to avoid, is the one attempting to give her the pep talk. Doesn't work though, she ends up helping the garbage man pick up the bins. That's how far down the rabbit hole she's gone. This girl needs therapy. Meanwhile, the little girl at the cafe gets rejected by even her own family, who are too busy and stressed to look at her drawings, so she goes off to cry alone in the toilets, where an Akuma finds her. My god, this sequence was well done. Our first proper look at Hawkmoth, the voice, the creepy ghostly silhouette, also ominous and spooky, in a way that Gabe never was. Instead of just offering power and playing on their anger and sort of dominating their brain, it feels like Lyla's more of a manipulator who makes it seem like an offer. She points them in the direction she wants them to go and fires up their emotions. She prompts them. It's a back and forth. Fits their different personalities really well. On top of that, the fact that her victim was a little girl alone in the dark toilets gave me shivers in a bad way. Yikes! One of the most uncomfortable scenes in the show's history for me, but it does what it needs to do and she becomes Illustrhater. She transforms and the episode kicks into yet another gear. Just keeps getting better and better. Then it's over to Alia and Nino talking about what they found out. Absolutely nothing. But there's no time for that because now the battle is on. They're not actually supposed to fight akumatized villains without Ladybug, but the reality is, she's just not here. She's taken out the bins because she's gone insane. There's people in danger, so the heroes step up and Alia sends a text to Marinette to try to get her attention. Then she calls her to shout at her, which I found very funny. Also, does anybody else find some of the humor they're using to be more, I don't know, anime-esque type of stuff? Maybe, maybe not. Feels like it to me, and I'll admit, it's working very well. The heroes all converge, and we have a really cool action sequence where they have to dodge all the attacks from Illustrhater using a different animation style. No notes, just a whole lot of fun here. Really visually dynamic and exciting. And of course, since nobody wants to beat the shit out of a literal child, the first lucky charm Marinette gets is a megaphone to try to just get her to give up the sketchbook. This of course fails, and the group have to dodge some giant drawings of Ladybug's yo-yo and come up with a plan to defeat the kid. Their first attempt is a pretty good one. Shelter, then yo-yo rope, then destroy the object. Bad luck for them, the kid can teleport, so it's back to square one for the plan. I loved seeing the team combo move though. We have some more cool action sequence with the little girl dropping bombs and trying to kill Cat Noir with a rocket, with Ladybug using a fresh lucky charm to get an empty art supply box. Not to nitpick, but if I was Ladybug, I'd be pretty pissed off that I have to go and fill this up manually. Couldn't get some lucky charm texters to go along with it? Is texter a word outside of Australia? I've never heard anybody else say it. Okay, I just googled it. She couldn't lucky charm up some markers then? So Nino goes off to fill the box, whilst the others try to get the info out of Illustrator about the new Hawkmoth villain. This whole sequence where they try to get her to talk whilst Lyla manipulates and threatens her is so unsettling in the best of ways. Makes Lyla seem like a top tier villain. Lots of aura on display here. More than Gabe had at pretty much any point in the show's run. I think it feels even more gross that this is a kid she's doing it to. So in hindsight, maybe this is the perfect episode to begin with, even though it's episode 3 or something like that? Because it sets the tone for the whole season and what Lyla's like. The way they defeat her is actually really unique as well. It plays on the fact that this is ultimately a little girl who loves to draw. So they trick her into coming over to them using a mirage and the art supplies to create drawings that are way better than what Lyla's sketchbook can do, even as Lyla's raging over voice chat, telling her not to do it. Since she's a little kid though, of course she's going to go for the colourful crayons that can make rainbows. It makes sense, it didn't feel plot armory, and it worked with the character personalities. Excellent battle, excellent resolution. There's a really cute scene afterwards where Ladybug gives her a charm, and she gives her a drawing and they all fist bump. It's very sweet, very wholesome. I hope they took her home though, instead of just leaving her in the street. We then finish off with 2 pretty massive moments overall. The first is Tiki doing the spit thingy again from season 2. And man, I just watched that episode a little while ago, with Marinette officially making Alia her deputy guardian to replace her as the guardian of the box, and the wielder of the Ladybug Miraculous should it all go to shit, and Marinette dies or is incapacitated. With all of Marinette's memories being loaded up onto the spit thingy. I can already hear the rage of Cat Noir fans, but let's be real, I think this makes the most sense based on how the story's progressed. For her to name him her successor, they'd need to know each other's identities, which the writers went out of their way to show us is a bad idea. Look, I get it, but honestly, I think as long as Adrian shines in other ways, it's not going to matter too much. I also think this guarantees there's going to be a Marinette loses her memory storyline at some point going forward, because this thing is Chekhov's gun. The other big moment is Alia forcing Marinette to go on a solo date with Adrian after she wakes up from fainting. I think we actually break through the cringe zone of their relationship, which means beyond this episode in the timeline, they should have less awkward interactions at long last. If they don't, well then we'll be calling it bad writing. Let's be real. This feels like a natural end point to that sort of storyline. Also, I felt very sad that Adrian thought he did anything wrong. Dude, you got ghosted twice. Come on. Can you have some self-respect? Oh, and Lyla does the time-honoured Hawkmoth tradition of angrily swearing vengeance at the end of the episode. The more things change, the more they stay the same, hey? I loved the reveal that she was one of the customers that brushed off the little girl, the one with the green drink. This does make me wonder though, is she stalking Marinette and Adrian, or was this just a coincidence? Either way, kind of spooky. They're hiding her appearance for now, so I think it's going to be a big reveal that she looks very different. Guess we'll have to wait and see. But yeah, beyond that, nothing much else to say. Great episode. The feeling is restored. We are so back. At least for one episode. And so with all that being said, these have just been my opinions, and now I'd like to hear yours. What did you think of the episode? Did you like it? Hate it? I'm curious for your thoughts, so make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and let me know.